Hey guys, Thrasher here. The game has changed a lot and I've been gone a long time. Where did I go? How did the game change? Let's talk about it right now. Okay, so first up, before we get into the game, I am alive and well. There have been a lot of conspiracy theories out there. I've seen, even in my own Discord, people were saying he got hit by a car, he's dead, he moved down to South America was one of them. I'm fine. I actually did go down to Texas. I've been down there for basically the entirety of the pandemic. I went down at the beginning of the year, basically shortly after my last video. Got stuck down there, stayed down there for quite a while without any of my recording hardware. So I had a laptop and that was about it, and I tried doing some of my recording stuff. It just wasn't working with the sound and where I was at. It was not impossible to record videos. I probably could have figured out a way to do it, but it just wasn't at the level that I needed it to be for me to be happy with it and actually push it out. Beyond that, I came back up. I immediately had to go up to Michigan for some family events. That took some time. So I know that I said that I was going to get this video out like 3 or 4 weeks ago. It just hasn't happened. But now we're finally back into it. And that's basically where I've been. So down in Texas, we're back in Chicago. Everything's good. I expect in the future we'll see a lot more consistent content. But one thing to mention is it's been so long since I've recorded one of these videos with my setup, it's probably going to take me a little bit of time to relearn everything, so I don't expect that I'll be pushing out a video a day right away, but in the very, very near future I will be. I will have one more video that's kind of a follow-up to this one tomorrow, where I talk about basically a full state of the game, how Zenkais are affecting things, what kind of banners you should be spending on, when you should be and when you shouldn't be, where I think things are going to go. But for right now, what I want to talk about is just generally what's been happening in the past and kind of an idea of what's probably going to happen in the future, and then we'll get a lot more granular probably in tomorrow's video. So first and foremost, we need to talk about the power creep. It's absolutely egregious. It's ridiculous. The way that this game works, obviously, is there's two different ways people spend money, and the point of the game is to make people spend money, right? So we can talk about, you know, people play it because it's fun and it's a game that entertains us, but the company themselves need to make money, and the two major ways that they make money is you make a character that everybody wants, so they don't have to be super powerful, but they probably will be, or you have to make a character that's just so powerful that everyone is forced to buy it. And that's basically what happened with Zenkais. If you remember back in the day, I talked about the fact that they need to find a way to make sure that old units don't stay outdated forever. They have to update those units, and the reason that they have to do that is because if you keep pushing out new units and then after a couple months that unit becomes old and then no one ever uses it again, people will become wise to that and they'll say, I'm gonna stop spending my money on this stuff, because if I get unit A in 3 months, unit B is going to come out and unit A is going to be useless for the rest of the time. Why would I spend money on something I'm only going to use for a month or two in the game? Now, they first were starting to do power adjustments. They would make changes to the stats of characters, and that made you want to reuse old units that you bought back in the day, so that way you could buy current units as they came out and know that at some point this unit's going to get good again, so I don't feel too bad. I'm not going to get buyer's remorse for getting it right now, spending real money on it. Well, eventually they figured out, you know what, we can force people to spend more chrono crystals, more money, if we just add this Zenkai system. So people basically have to get their characters to 7 stars, and then once they've spent all this money on these characters or all these crystals on these characters, we wait a while, we come back around with the character, and we're going to give them a stat boost and an ability boost, but we're not going to do it for free. We're going to do it in such a way that people have to spend chrono crystals again. Most of the time, there are characters that get Zenkai'd that don't need you to spend chrono crystals on them, obviously the Legends Road characters, but the majority of it is about spending more and more crystals. Now, we'll talk about when you should be getting Zenkais for certain characters, when you should be spending crystals on banners tomorrow, but what I want to point out is the fact that with this system, these Zenkais make not only the specific character more powerful, but other characters more powerful because of their Zenkai ability. Now, that's causing the tug and pull between free-to-play and pay-to-win to kind of go out of whack. So you've got this huge power creep, and the problem with the power creep is you're going to see sort of a roller coaster, right? So you have a new character that comes out, and they're going to be absolutely amazing. So basically anyone that is quote-unquote pay-to-win, they'll get the character. Anyone that doesn't get the character basically can't compete. And what's going to happen over time is you're going to see these characters come out, you're going to see massive power spikes from the people who are paying money or using a lot of chrono chrono crystals. Eventually, you'll have more characters that come out after that that aren't as overpowered, and it'll start to balance out a little bit. And then during the anniversary and probably during Christmas every single year, you're basically going to see what I call catch-up events, and that's where the roller coaster goes the other way, where people who have been saving some chrono crystals can actually spend them right there, and they're going to get a ton of new sparking units that they didn't have before to try to catch them up to the pay-to-win players. And the reason for that is if the free-to-play players fall so far behind, they're just not going to want to play anymore. And the I don't want to call them pay-to-win. They're not paying to win. What they're doing is they're paying to stay competitive. You know, the top 1,000, top 1,500 players, they have to have maxed out units or they're just not going to be competitive against the other top 1,500 players. You know, if you're the 3rd best player in the world and you're playing against the 4th or 5th best player and they have units that are 3 or 4 stars higher than yours and they're max Zenkai'd and everything is maxed out, that is a big enough advantage that they're just going to win. So they have to do that, right? So let's go back to what I was saying. You have these periods of high power spikes and then you have these periods of catch-up events where basically everyone evens back out. Well, the problem is that with Zenkai and the way that it works, the power spikes are so large that if you're not someone who has a fair amount of crystals, there's periods of time where you literally can't play against anyone who has specific characters. And we can talk about the new Zenkai for the blue cheat coup, and we can talk about the Zenkais for the red Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, and even the Zenkais for the Android units, how yellow Android 18 is ultra powerful. Some people I've seen on the Facebook groups, they talk about how this is sort of a rock, paper, scissors. I don't necessarily agree with that. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, but you're seeing these massive power spikes where people just can't compete because you basically have the 2 best units in the game right now are both Legends Limited, and the chances of you getting a Legends Limited unit to 7 stars and then being able to Zenkai them, you need to be spending a massive amount of chrono crystals, or you have to be someone like me who's been playing since the very beginning, who's been slowly accruing stars on those characters. So at the moment, it's really not that fair. There's tons of players who just can't compete. And that's unfortunate, and I think that's going to continue into the future until they come up with some other mechanic that can even things back out again, because what will happen if they don't do that is all of your what people would call dolphins, right? Your players who spend just a little bit of money they're just gonna stop, because being a dolphin is not it really doesn't work right now. You're not going to get enough stars on those characters spending $10, $20, $30 a month on these banners. You need to be spending a lot more than that, and that's really unfortunate. Now, with that being said, there is always a path back to being more fair and balanced. As a game where you can inject money in and get characters that are more powerful that you can use against other players, it's always going to be a tiny little bit pay to win. So that's a little unfortunate, but I think you can get it fairly balanced to a point where anyone outside of those top 1,500 players isn't going to care too much. You know, a little 1%, 2% power difference isn't going to matter. It's going to be more generally about skill, but obviously it's still just the units that you pull. So we can talk about that path back to what we would call quote-unquote fair in tomorrow's video, but I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to talk about today. And if you disagree with or think I missed anything about just the general state of the game, please throw it down below. I love seeing your guys' comments, like reading them. And if you like this content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.